Aloha.
Aloha.
First, it's such a pleasure to be here. When I was a member of the legislature and later when I became governor, I worked with many senior citizens, and I noticed that many of you are still around, like me. I think it's really important for everyone to recognize the fact that we are creatures of our own experiences, and I think our values are shaped by the experiences that we undergo. And so let me tell you about my personal experience with my father. My father retired in 1973, and when he retired, I took a look at how much money he was getting from Social Security and his pension, and I knew right off that it was not enough for him to live, at least reasonably, in Hawaii. So I asked him to come and live with me. Dad, I said, come and live with me. And he did. He did from 1973 till his passing in 1994. Taught me a lot about the needs of senior citizens, because in my father's last 2 years, he developed dementia. And as time went by, my brother and I, were taking care of him. But as time went by, we found that he needed with each passing month virtually, a higher level of care. And eventually, we went from adult daycare to finally having to go through the anguish and the pain of deciding to place him in a residential adult care home, which we did. My father, one of the things about dementia is that it causes people to be somewhat mischievous at times. My father ran away quite a bit. He was very well known to the Waihoa Police Department, and once made TV news because the police department's policy was, if the person was missing for a certain period of time, I think it might have been about 6 or 8 hours, they would issue an all-points bulletin. And so here it was, my father was missing, my brother and I couldn't find him, we were driving all over the place. And so I think it was on the 6 o'clock news, it came out that Lieutenant Governor Ben Cayetano's father is missing. And we lived in Mililani at the time, and at about 9 o'clock, someone who saw the news, they found him in Paoa, which is like, how did he get there, Well, he still remember how to use his bus pass. So one of the things that I did after that experience was to politely, tell my father, let me hold your bus pass, Dad, and I did. Well, he passed away in 1994, the year that I was elected governor, but he made such an impression on me that I thought to myself, once I was watching the news, and I remember there was a story about a person, a son in Chicago, I think it was, who had locked his father in the bathroom. And on his face it seemed really cruel, and I remember my staff talking about how terrible it was. But I could feel something for that son, because Chicago is such a city where if you don't have the services and you can't do anything else, if your parent, your mother or your father gets lost in that city, it is, danger is over on the horizon. And so when I became governor, services for our senior citizens was very, very important to me. And I think that with Marianne Seeley and people like that, I think we did a decent job. My wife, Vicki, led a committee, and they studied long-term care for a full year. Came out with a recommendation for a statewide program. The legislature called it Vicki Care. It's like Obamacare, And they actually passed it, but it was vetoed by Governor Lingo. And I understood why the governor vetoed that bill, because it was quite costly. But it told me about the need and the reasons why some of these programs don't get funded. Money is at the root of all of these issues. Senior citizen programs don't get funded, it's because usually in terms of political power, they are way at the bottom. You know, they don't have the same power as unions or big business. They simply don't. And usually their programs are on the block when it comes to cutting discretionary spending. I'm told that, for example, that there has been no increase in the base budget for Kupuna services for the past 11 years. How does that happen? Again, it's a question of funding. Which brings me to what we're going to talk about basically today. Why did I get into the race? Why did I leave? Why, after retiring as governor, I decided to step down and run for mayor? It's because I'm really very, very concerned about what I believe is the reckless spending policies at City Hall. I've spoken to people who need the handy van, and they've all kind of problems with the handy van. About a third of the vans should be replaced, are in disrepair. The services, often they try to, pack the vans, and people miss appointments for dialysis, or they miss appointments in getting back home. And now with the bus services curtailed, that only added much to the problem. For senior citizens in general, the best way you can help them is to keep the cost of living down. For example, I've had senior citizens email me or call me or tell me personally that they have a tough time paying for the increases in their bi-monthly sewer and water fees. Well, you better be prepared for more, because 5 years from now, 2017, the average family of 4 will be paying $396 for their bi-monthly sewer and water fees. Okay? This is not my numbers, it is the city's numbers. From 2005 to 2017, you will find that the average bi-monthly sewer and water fee will have increased by 341%. And those are the kind of issues that, in particular, I think senior citizens are concerned and should be concerned about. Not only senior citizens, but our young also, who try to struggle to make a living over here. We don't want them to leave. And if we don't want them to leave, then we need to make sure that we do everything we can to keep the cost of living here down. Hawaii is the third most unaffordable state in the union to live. If you rank states with a population of less than 1 million, we are number 1. Highest gas prices. Our electricity rates are triple the national average. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. So taking a look at the expenses that the city faces, and this is how I always look at a problem. I try to take everything into account and not just focus on one particular issue. Then I found, and I might add, that after I came out of retirement, about a month and a half later, I had 8 former cabinet members from 4 city administrations join me. 6 of these guys were retired. They came out of retirement to help in the campaign because they were concerned, as I am, about the spending policies at the city. Just to upgrade the sewers, $5 to $6 billion. That includes a $3.5 billion mandated upgrade mandated by the Environmental Protection Agency. Why was it mandated? Because 3 past administrations of mayors had neglected to do anything about it. And finally, the Sierra Club and the EPA had to take the city to court, and the consent decree was agreed to, and the city now has this huge mountain to face. Our water system, to upgrade our water system, which, by the way, averages about 350 water main breaks a year, A couple of weeks ago, there was a water main break on the windward side of the island. It shut virtually everything down. It was such a huge water break. Those of you who live there know what I'm talking about. What will it cost? Conservative estimates, $5 to $6 billion. Our roads are rated third worst in the nation. A friend of mine from Sri Lanka jokes with me sometimes, and she says, you know, whenever she goes back to Sri Lanka, she feels that the roads there are better than our roads here. The city basically has a pothole type of, response. You find out a pothole, you call use the hotline, call the city, and they'll send a crew out, fill up the pothole. That's not the answer for the long run, because engineers will tell you that if all you do is refill a pothole, then what happens when there's a rain, it begins to erode the road base underneath. And then what happens when traffic goes over the pothole, the fillings begin to once again disperse, and you find that the pothole reemerges. That's not the answer. That's a short-term fix. You need to look at a long-term fix. And what is that long-term fix? It is to do what they do in other states. First, you try to establish a reserve maintenance fund. And secondly, you develop a plan to go out and repave the roads. Repave the roads, not just fill the potholes. Now, that'll take some coordination, because the way the city is set up right now, the coordination is not very well organized. One of the problems is that if one department goes out and repaves the road and doesn't coordinate with the board of water supply or the wastewater, they'll come back and have to dig up the roads to install the sewer lines or repair the water lines. This is a recurring problem, and I have a solution to that problem. Now, let's talk about the neglect. How did these problems occur? Okay. My truth squad, I call these guys the truth squad. I'm talking about the 8 city cabinet officers who have joined me. They tell me that, they haven't kept up with the upgrade and the maintenance. So, for example, in testimony before the city council, the head of the board of water supply was asked, well, how many miles are you supposed to do to upgrade per year, just to keep up? And he said, his name was Wayne Hashio, and he said, 30 miles. All right. How many miles did you do in 2010? 1 mile. Lately, they've been doing an average of 4 or 5 miles, I've been told. Same thing with the sewers. We calculate that you need to upgrade at least 20 miles of sewer lines a year. Because some of these sewer lines are old. They're like 50, 60 years old. They need to be upgraded. Average completion or upgrades, not 20 miles. Over the last year, 6 years, have been 6 miles. So we calculate that they're 47 years behind in wiping out that backlog. That kind of inattention to basic services cannot be tolerated. Why? Because I think that in order to keep the city beautiful, in order for the city to prosper economically, you need to have those very, very basic services. You don't buy a new home or an old home just based on what the home looks like. You get your engineers, you get people to take a look at what's under the ground, whether the foundation is one that's going to last. And that, I think, is a big issue for me. My priority is keep the city beautiful. Don't block the views with huge structure, and upgrade the basic infrastructure, sewers and water and roads, and find the $800 million it's going to cost to just upgrade our storm drains, and that would be my first priority. Thank you.